Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Method of overcoming any objection. How did I come up with the Wheelbarrow Method? Well, people come up with excuses, they come up with objections, they come up with things that they think are tangible in their wheelbarrow. And they think those objections are tangible to them. I don't want to do this. I have a different opinion. All that is very tangible to the people. What ultimately you have to do is nominalize what's in their wheelbarrow. You have to make them believe that that doesn't matter, and you have to put your value in that wheelbarrow. So let's review what an objection is. An objection is an expression or a feeling of disapproval or opposition or a reason for disagreeing. So in sales, we get that all the time. You know, our product, their product, or our way of doing things and their way of doing things. What we want them to do and what they don't want to do. And it's down here. So typically it'll be on price. They believe it's worth less and you want it to be worth more. They want more value for the price. Whatever it is. That's typically where an objection handles, and it's chunked down in the product or the details, and we'll talk about that. Ultimately, it's a mental block. If you remember during how to use my training, it really boils down to the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, and the critical faculty barrier. So when you've hit an objection, you hit the critical faculty barrier. They're saying true or false, yes or no. And in terms of an objection, they're saying no and false. And what do they say no and what do they say false to is ultimately what's supporting their current beliefs in their unconscious mind. So we all carry out in life is what we believe about what we hold true to us. And so you're hitting the critical faculty barrier. You're hitting a point that is disagreeing with a belief that they currently have. And so you have to overcome that critical faculty barrier. You have to bypass that critical faculty barrier, get them to suspend their disbelief and listen to you uncritically. And so how do you do that? Because you've hit the critical part of their brain. And so that's ultimately what we're going to talk about in overcoming objections and the Wheelbarrow Method. And so in the next videos, we're going to share with you how to set up the framework to overcoming the objection and bypassing that critical faculty barrier. You don't want to always be right, you just want to be rich. And the reason that most people fail at handling objections is one of two things. Either they want to handle it head on and it's a concern, not an objection. All these strategies, whether it's a true concern or an objection, all these strategies will help you overcome them. So what we do is we make concerns bigger than they are, and then we start creating this adversarial relationship or adversarial conversation, or we try to hit an objection head on. And the truth of any objection is that it is obviously that mental block. We're hitting that critical faculty barrier. And also the truth of any objection, there's actually a bigger meaning behind what they're saying. There's a bigger problem or a bigger theory in their mind of why they're bringing up that objection. And so by utilizing the strategies that we showed here, you're going to eclipse that mental block. And an easy heuristic is, remember, I do not have to be right, I want to be rich. And so instead of hitting somebody with their concern head on or their objection head on, all this boils down to the very simple sales communication model that I've been using for the last 6 or 7 years. My wife and I designed this, and it's been hugely impactful in my ability to communicate and make sales and make deals in all my businesses. And so here, just to review it, remember, down at the bottom are the product and details. At the top are your goals and problems of your client or of the person you're communicating with. I mean, I used the same strategy when I was negotiating with a government, with a city government. I had to chunk back up to the goals and problems that they were trying to accomplish to get them on my side. If I stayed down here, it would have just been an adversarial relationship of, hey, you say you want me to do this with my properties, and I'm doing this. They had a reason that they wanted me to do that with my properties, and that negotiation was found, and that solution was found around their problems and goals of what they were trying to negotiate. So all solutions are found in the big picture. And it's your ability to be able to chunk down to the lower chunk of the product and details and chunk up to the higher chunk of their goals and problems and chunk laterally to be able to tell stories and reframe your clients and your prospects. So anytime you get an objection, they're down here, you need to chunk back up to the problems and goals and chunk laterally to reframe them and tell stories. So it's really your flexibility of communication that leads to your success. So no matter what you're trying to do in this objection handling training here, no matter what you're trying to do, if you're trying to negotiate with somebody, if you're making phone calls, if you have one-on-one meetings, whatever you're trying to do, it's your flexibility of communication, your flexibility of thought that leads to your success. Are you selling the steak or are you selling the sizzle? And so there's a couple reasons. If you say you don't get objections, I don't think people get a lot of objections in sales, and here's why. They're telling, not selling. So they just go out and pitch their product, and people are like, I don't have any questions. They leave, they walk away, no vote, no action, nobody does anything. And so really it's about that sales process. And so handling objections actually starts way back in setting frames, asking the right questions, creating discomfort. But for specifically just handling objections, we have to look at, how do you handle objections and how do you reframe somebody? And really, that's really what it is. They've come in with a frame of an objection, and you have to reframe that objection. And so it really boils back to the very same communication and sales model that I use and communication model that I use is most conversations happen down at the product and the details, and we have to chunk them up to the goals and the problems. When they give you an objection, they're down caught by the trees because your product, it doesn't matter if you're accomplishing goals and solving problems. So the ability to communicate and go to the specifics to the big picture, back to the specifics, up to the big picture, and have that flexibility is what's going to make you a great persuader and a great communicator. Now, we also want to go laterally, and there's ideas of lateral thought and examples of going laterally. And so we're going to explain this whole communication model in a little deeper in the next couple videos. But here is how I show the Wheelbarrow Method and how it coincides with my communication strategy. So you have the communication strategy on the left-hand side. So what happens is when you have an objection, it's down at the product and it's down at the details. You have to chunk them back up to the problems and goals. When you chunk them back up to the problems and goals, you nominalize the objection that they have in their wheelbarrow, and you chunk them back down to your value and fill their wheelbarrow with your value. Now, we're going to have to take you through a sequence of videos here to help you train your mind to have this flexibility of thought. And so it's not just as it says here, is, we just got to go on the problems and goals, and they have objections and wheelbarrows, we nominalize it, and we put our value in there. I'm going to share with you the heuristic and the flexibility of thought in the next few videos so you can understand the wheelbarrow method and really what it means to have that heuristic to overcome any objection.
I wanna get restless.